Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Almost the end of the month. Can you believe that? We're heading into November. And it just seems like it's going faster and faster. And I don't know about you, but I'm not ready to accept that yet. I'm ready for the time change, though, which we still have another week before we actually move the clock. So hang in there. It's coming. We will not be waking up in the dark. We'll actually wake up with the sun, which is actually what happened today. I slept in a little bit later. Actually, I just kind of stayed bundled up because it was cold. And I feel so much better. And girls, what I want you to do, good morning, Kimberly, is make sure you're taking care of yourself and listening to your body. Because the time is something when we shift time and the weather changes, our body has to really acclimate to it. And so your body will start telling you need to rest or do whatever. So listen to it and follow it. Today, we're going to talk about reactions versus responses to things. Because what we're going to find is that most of the time we've been reacting to things, and we really should be responding as a Christian. So let's take a look at that. Get some warm coffee in me. Take a little of the chill off. So, quote from Charles Swindoll. He says, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond to it. So let me say that again. Life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it. And that's from Charles Swindoll. And what we know for a fact on it is that whatever happens, typically it happens, and depending on what we respond to, the consequences afterwards could be long-term. It could be eternal. We don't know. So what we want to look at today is how can we remind ourselves to stop and think and respond versus just reacting. Got a couple stories here that I found, and we're going to take one story out of the Bible and a couple of just examples to help you see that you can respond to things and let things go. And sometimes that sounds cold, I know that, but I know I've seen things recently that I really just want to tell someone, let it go. Because the problem is, by us harboring this stuff and by us holding it in and building it up, it's doing nothing but destroying us. See, because whatever it is that has rubbed us the wrong way, has offended us, or is bothering us, is not hurting the other person. We forget that. We think if we stay all angry and bitter at somebody, that, they'll learn their lesson. No, they don't care. They've moved on. Therefore, why would you want to harbor it? Why would you want to respond in a way that's going to be a consequence to you later, instead of just saying, okay, well, good for you, and move on? So let's take a look. Let's take a look at what's in the Bible. And in Genesis 45, verses 5 to 8, we see Joseph's response. Now, you know the story of Joseph. He's the youngest brother. He was having dreams of seeing wheat chaffs bowing, and just all these dreams kind of pointing to him being the head of something. And when he'd share it with his brothers got very angry at him. And so they put him in a ditch when Joseph came out to where they were herding the sheep, and the brothers plotted to put him into this pit and then sell him off as a slave. Because it was all that pride building up inside of them. And so they did just that. They put him in this pit. They sold him off. And Joseph became a slave. Well, through the process and through Joseph being obedient, we see that God has a better position for him. So instead of reacting to his brothers and building up hate and just all these bitter feelings in him, he trusted God. He responded. And what happens is, Joseph gets sold, right? He goes in. He actually becomes the prime minister of Egypt from the Pharaoh because he was able to take care of the Pharaoh's house so well. And then what happens in the story? The famine hits the land. The brothers have to come to ask for grain. And who do they come to ask for it from? They ask Joseph. So see, God knows all along exactly what's going to happen. We just need to get on board and start trusting Him. I don't care what the situation is, girls. And we're human, so there's times we're going to react. But the key is to reel that reaction back in and start to learn to respond. Start to learn to trust God. Because it says here in Joseph's response to his brothers, in Genesis 45, 5 through 8, his brothers are grieving because they're like, oh my gosh, we sold you. We sold you. And Joseph tells them, do not be grieved because you sold me. God sent me here, not you. And He sent me here to help you. Now, tell me this, girls. If there's somebody that has done something to you and you're getting ready to react instead of respond, which is greater? What you can do or what God can do? Now imagine Joseph holding on to these bitterness and the feelings because his own brothers did this to him. All because he shared a vision that God gave him. Good morning, Arlene. So imagine Joseph. If he wouldn't have trusted God and had faith in God, would it have played out the same way? Would he have been a man of God that the Pharaoh saw and put him as a prime minister of Egypt because of the way he responded? Then God comes back and He brings the people that wronged Joseph to come to Joseph for help. Imagine being that brother that had to come and ask your brother who you sold into slavery because you got mad at him for help. Oh, girls, God has got us. He knows, and He is the best one at taking care of the issues, not us. See, because what happens is not as important as our reaction. And again, I go back to Joseph. His reaction could have been horrific. And instead he he was upset when he got thrown in the pit. But, and as he's being sold, can you imagine being sold as a slave by your own family? Looking back and saying, why? What are you doing to me? And then just having that still peace. You know why he was able to have a still peace about Jesus and about God in his life right then? Because he had a relationship. Because he constantly was in communication with God. He prayed, he worshiped, he believed. So once he got a grip on himself and realized that, okay, God's got this. He's had me so far. He's shown me things. I just need to trust Him. And look what God did for him because he trusted Him. Remember, your reactions can be long-term. So imagine if his, reaction would have been different. What would have happened when he went to be the slave? What could have happened in the hands of Pharaoh as a slave versus what happened because he responded versus reacted? So let's take a look at a couple other stories too. I was reading this morning and just a couple of stories kind of popped out. And one was out of a young high school girl. And she was actually the principal's daughter. So, you already got a tag on your back at that point, right? So, anyhow, she gets busted for something she didn't do, right? Gets sent to detention. Okay, she's got two different choices there. She could react to it because I didn't do it and who did this to me and it was Johnny that did it, whatever, and get all worked up. But instead, in this story, and an example I saw this morning, she sat there and she paused, okay? Our responses come because we pause versus just instant reactions. So she paused for a minute and thought, you know what? How many other things have I done and got away with? I'll sit here for the day. See, her reaction actually paid off because people were watching her, because she had peace of mind. And see, if we get honest, girls, a lot of times we just finally got life caught up with us on some of these. You know, I look at when I got pulled over a couple months ago. Greg and I were heading through Lake Wylie to go into Gastonia. And I don't typically drive when we're together, but I just happened to be coming back from women's study, coming back from Bible study. There you go. I picked him up, and then we headed on out. Well, we were so busy talking, the speed limit in the area we were at was at 45. Well, I hit 60. Okay, I just wasn't paying attention. Bottom line, wasn't paying attention. I was so busy talking to him that I didn't look at the speedometer. I didn't set cruise control. I just kept going. And what I do have learned out here, I don't know if it's like this anywhere else, but our state troopers and our local police, they actually have radars on the front of their car that if they're coming the other direction, they can tag you. And so we're driving, and of course Greg does this. He's able to be all over the place sometimes. His brain works like that. And he looked over and he saw the state trooper flip a U-turn. And he says, "You're getting pulled over." I was like, "What? No, I don't want to." You know, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, whatever, calm down. I said, okay, best thing I can do is not react to this. I need to respond. So we pulled over. We found a parking lot. You know, we signaled to him that we saw him and we were pulling over. I pull into a parking lot so he's safe getting out. That's why we did that. And because most people pull over on the side of the road or the middle, and then they're kind of in danger coming up to your cars. So I pulled into this parking lot. I shut off the engine. I took my sunglasses off, and I sat there with the hands on the steering wheel with the window down. And a state trooper walks up, and they always walk up from behind you just because there's so many crazy folk out there that they never know what they're walking up to on a car. And apparently he had already ran the tags, because typically they take their time getting out. They're running your tags before they come up to the car, because if you have a warrant, they're going to pull you out of the car and arrest you. So he comes up, and he's like, he greets me. I said, "Hello, officer," and very polite to him. And he says, "Were you aware of how fast you were going?" I said, "No, honestly, I wasn't. I just wasn't paying attention to the speedometer." And he says, "You know, the speed limit's 45 and you were doing 60. And I said, "I'm really sorry." I said, "You know," and this is just, I was being honest with him. I said, "I really wanted to thank you guys for all your hard work." Because I do. We were talking about taking pizzas over to the local station, but because of all the things that were happening, we weren't sure they'd even eat them, and I don't have the money just to flush down the toilet. And so we were really going to look at just dropping by and bringing some pizza or something at the station. And thank you guys. This is not the way I want to thank you, is by getting pulled over. And he laughs. He says, "That really means a lot to us that you even would thank us. So we appreciate that." He says, "I'm just going to give you a warning here. Please watch your speed and be careful pulling out. We don't want you getting hit." And I just sat there and my heart just kind of sunk down, because I was like, "Oh, thank you, Lord," because I didn't need a speeding ticket. But I didn't get upset when I got pulled over. A couple of reasons. Number one, if I show my manners and I respect what they do, because these poor cops, oh my gosh, the stuff they go through is horrific. Now, if I show him manners and respect, they're going to respect me. Bottom line. I don't care who I am. That's just what I grew up knowing. But I also thought, how many other times was I speeding in different areas and just never got caught? So I really had nothing to argue. Yes, I was speeding. I am more than grateful that my response to him led us to a point of him just saying, "Be careful and don't do it again." And of course now I really upset people on the road because I set the cruise control at just over the speed limit. Because I know, even if they're on the other side of the road, they're tagging you if they see you. So, who wants to take a chance? Not me. I don't need no $200-$300 ticket. So that's another one. So, have you been treated unfairly? Have you been hurt? Has somebody offended you? Criticisms? Have you made mistakes that people have just jumped down your throat on? There's all kinds of things that we can respond to. I think I said rudeness to you. People just being mean. And we see that everywhere. We see that on social media. We see that in the churches. Yes, I said that. And I know somebody said a couple weeks ago that their clicks aren't a big deal. Yeah, they are. Because what happens is people get into these cliques, and women are worse than men, where they only talk to the people they know. And see, I've been up in the crow's nest at our church because I've been live streaming service for the folks that can't get out. And what I did notice is that the ones that know each other, and there's a couple of circles, they all go to the same people. And there's women coming in the doors that don't know anybody, that are new. Maybe they're a single mom. Maybe they're widowed. We don't know. But we're not going to know because we don't want to take the time to respond to them being there. What if you are that woman that goes in and all the other girls are talking to each other but nobody acknowledges you? That's hurtful. And how do you respond or react on that? So there's a lot of places where we can look at, whether it's family, it's friends, it's church people, it's workplace. There's all kinds of things happening, and we just need to learn and remember to respond versus reacting. Which takes me to the second verse for today, Matthew 6:14-15. In there, we're reminded so gently by God that we need to forgive others. Because he says in there, if we forgive man, our Heavenly Father will forgive us. If we refuse to forgive, then God won't forgive. We forget that part. We forget the fact, like that high school young lady, how much stuff do we need to be forgiven for? How much stuff do we need to have grace shown to us for? But when we're quick to judge somebody else and we're quick to get on that bandwagon of just being mean and hateful to people, we forget. Don't forget, girls. Respond to people. Respond to situations. Because remember that your responses or reactions are long-term. It's not just in that moment. If you react in a way that causes a big old stink, or maybe it's taking your eyes off of God, or it's striking out at someone, that has a long-term reaction, or long-term reaction to it, because it's going to last. But see, our response can have long-term too. If you respond in a different way to someone who's being mean and hateful to you, just like Joseph. Remember Joseph. Thrown in a pit by his brothers, sold as a slave, and then in turn still had that opportunity to bless them and take care of them. So what would you choose? The bitter, angry old woman in the corner? Or do you want to be Joseph, who understands that God takes us through different places and lets us experience different things to build our character, to build our faith, and to make us stronger as women of God? Because see, if our faith isn't tested, it can't be trusted. Faith is something that we build on. We don't just arrive at it. And if you're going to be a woman of God that's going to thrive, you've got to be able to respond. You have to. Because reacting to things in the long run only hurt you. So let's seek God on this, and let's ask God, is there things in your life that you've been reacting to that maybe you need to start responding to? It's a fine line. but ask God to show it to you, and He will. And again, remember what Charles Swindoll told us in the beginning. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. All right? Girls, have a beautiful day, and we'll catch you tomorrow. And we'll kick it off into another weekend. Actually, it'll be the last weekend of October. How exciting, huh? Christmas is coming. Okay, whatever, right? I think it's 6 weeks out. Yeah, 6 weeks out, I think. 4, no. Oh, no, 9 weeks. I can't count. I've already written off November. Okay, catch you tomorrow. Love you. Bye.